Professor spends $190,000 in federal grant money at a strip club. Probably just doing research for the university's next Sex Week celebration. I'm Dr. Duke, she's Katie, and this is the Dr. Duke Show. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Dr. Duke Show, the only program that keeps you educated on the craziness impacting K-12 classrooms and college campuses around the world. Today is a weird Wednesday as we're discussing some bizarre university researchers who say sex robots should be able to deny sexual consent to their owners. I spent $10,000 on a she-bot, and she keeps telling me no. And speaking of weird, a South Carolina couple is raising 200 plastic children. I have some thoughts on that, as you might imagine, but we start at Drexel University, where a professor has been caught spending nearly $190,000 in federal grant money to visit strip clubs. That's a lot of lap dances. Drexel University has agreed to pay back nearly $190,000 in federal grant money its former head of electrical and computer engineering spent in strip clubs. And I love this name, Chika Odenaka Nwankpa. And we're just going to call him Wank Boy, right? We're going to call him Wank. So Professor Wank was first discovered spending much of this grant money on strippers in 2017. According to a Justice Department report, the university agreed to pay back $189,000 of that money to a federal government agency to avoid potential liability under the False Claims Act, and the Justice Department announced.
They say that a majority of this Professor
Wank's
shameful misuse of public funds actually took place in Philadelphia strip clubs, where he would use this grant money to attain various goods and services. According to the Justice Department, they did their research on this.
He's after the goodies in the strip club, and he's being serviced. Goods and services for Professor Wank.
So he may have gotten that, but despite even having this hefty tab, as they're calling it, the former now academic, he left on basically Drexel's doorstep to have to pay. He's actually only been forced to pay for less than a third of his allegedly ill-gotten entertainment, and he was only barred from receiving more federal funds for 6 months. So he could come back and do this good 6 months from now.
And you would think the federal government would have caught on when he asked for the $190,000 of grant money in singles. You think
but
they would have caught on, but they didn't catch on to that.
Apparently
Professor
not.
Wank's fraudulent spending spanned a decade, 10 years of happy endings for Professor Wank, according to the report. In 2015, he was named the department head of electrical and computer engineering after demonstrating exceptional leadership. Whoa.
Wow. This story just gets worse and worse.
The university lauded Professor Wank for his fundraising.
He received over $10 million in grants.
I have nothing further to say.
Moving on.
Wank.
Moving on to some sex robots, where some researchers have said that robots that are designated for human pleasure should be designed to grant or withhold consent and teach sex education. Anko Peters is a doctoral student at Australia's University of Wollongong, and Pim Hesselager is an associate professor at the Netherlands Radboud University, and they recently published, it's called Designing Virtuous Sex Robots, in the International Journal of Social Robotics. They have a paper, and it analyzed 4 areas: virtue ethics in social robotics, contra-instrumentalist accounts, whatever that means, consent practice through sex robots, and implications of virtuous sex robots.
Look, if you want a sex robot that doesn't have sex, just put a wedding ring on it, for God's sake. Just have a little plastic wedding ring, and I guarantee you there will be no sex for the next 40 years, okay? That's all you got. Don't overthink this, professors. Don't create, unless I'm sure there are plenty of beta males out there, we call them Democrats, who like the idea of having their female sex robots turn them down.
Well, these researchers argue that robots can be designed to help humans become more virtuous, either by exhibiting virtuous behavior or, quote, nudging human behavior directly.
You're creating a robot with absolutely realistic junk, and the purpose of that robot is to teach you virtue.
Yes,
virtue. You're creating a robot that is sexually available in any potential way.
Yeah.
without anything you have to do other than plug her in. Mm-hmm. And you're going to train that to be a virtuous robot. And that's going to train the men who spend $10,000 for a completely available female sex bot, a she-bot. And the main purpose of this is going to teach virtue.
Yes.
Okie dokie. Yeah, that's going to be a good one.
But the actual truly creepy part for me...
Wait. There's more?
There's more. Is even though they say they're not focusing on child sex robots...
Yet.
They suggest using a compassion-cultivating sex robot to teach teenagers sex education. As they argued in their paper, a sex robot which not only can practice consent scenarios with a human partner, but which can actually cultivate a virtue like compassion could potentially be used in sex education and therapy.
As the professors say, verbal consent does not necessarily mean that a partner is freely engaging in sex. What would it take, by the way?
Exactly.
If verbal consent is not enough, since, quote, they were talking about robots here, by the way. Since social pressure or substance abuse, maybe. So you're creating crack hoe robots now, right?
However, we have a new consent type device, I guess, if you will. It's a cup, a party cup, to activate and be okay with this pro-consenting thing. And it's happening at, of course, the University of South California.
Sure it is.
Where we have a student senator who wants to hand out pro-consent party cups at the various sporting events to let everyone know, hey, I'm free to mingle. So a student senator proposed this at a Senate meeting. And so she says, you know what? I got the solution. How about the university buys 800 reusable cups, hands them out, and these cups are going to have these consent-friendly slogans, such as, consent is sexy.
Yeah,
Boom.
but if you're drinking from the cup, aren't you consenting? By definition, if you're drinking from a cup that says consent is sexy, haven't you just argued that consent is sexy? How could that, especially to a half-drunk person, how is that not consent? This is and by the nice statistic, by the way, 41% more people raped 17-year-olds, of course, because there's a lot of high school seniors at the USC tailgates.
Probably.
But the problem here is that it's like that. Remember from about 10 years ago, the Super Bowl, the inflated Super Bowl numbers? Yeah. Every Super Bowl, incidents of wife beating goes, and it's complete garbage. It's been completely debunked. This has been completely debunked. But if you got a bunch of drunken undergrads walking around with cups that say consent is sexy, by definition, you exchange cups, right? You drink from each other's cups. You have consented.
There you go.
It's true. It should say something other than consent is sexy, right? Get consent beforehand or something like that. But consent is sexy is, in its own way, signaling your consent, isn't it? Here I am, drunk and pretty.
Well,
right?
but
Here I am, drunk and pretty and scantily dressed, as I usually am on tailgate days, drunk, pretty, and scandalously dressed, and I have a cup that says consent is sexy, right? And you come up to me, and what have I already done?
Well, I would still say no.
I'm sexy.
Yeah, okay.
The cup says consent is sexy. So by definition, you have to link my sexiness with the cup's consent, don't you?
No.
You don't.
No.
How much is these little beauties going to cost USC?
Well, here's the deal with this whole situation. They actually tabled the whole notion of the 800 reusable cups because they want to find a more substantive campaign before presenting it again to the Senate for a vote. But they also, at the same time, are anticipating they're going to have this ready to go by towards the end of November because they have a home game. So I'm not really sure if Ms. Garland knows what she's doing or if she just wanted to say, hey, let's get these cups.
So in other words, you're going to, rather than address drunkenness,
actual issue,
right, an actual issue, you're going to address it by handing out cups, which A, make it easier for people to drink, and B, have wonderful ambiguous statements like consent is sexy on them.
Absolutely. And then they'll take selfies with it, put it on their Instagram, and then make it even more dangerous to go to the USC tailgating.
And what if you created a cup that says, I don't consent? How about that? Wouldn't that be a stronger message? I don't consent.
I don't know, but
then
consent
again,
is sexy makes it sound so much
and no one would carry them, right?
Exactly, no one would. Keeping in the theme, though, of plastic, this time, instead of plastic cups, it's going to be plastic children, where we have a South Carolina couple who is raising 200 plastic children in their home for the past 3 years. We have Madeline and Malachi Dressel. They are childhood sweethearts. And they love vintage clothing, they love secondhand goods and throwback design. And so they decided in 2016, after they found this child-sized doll at a thrift store, they both just fell in love, felt this connection to it. And now, 3 years later, they have 200 of these plastic children, 30 of which are life-size dolls, and they are, quote, raising them.
So this is our youngest, Sirocco. This is Malachi's favorite. This is Sarah Ann. She has twist wrists. Really draws Malachi to her because she can
more posable,
do quite a bit.
Expressive. She's a daddy's girl.
So today the girls are making their very first batch of blueberry muffins. So they're helping this morning to get everything baked and ready and for this afternoon.
And so you're not raising kids, you are collecting dolls. Creepy little mannequins. You are collectors, not raisers. And the fact that they get national news for this is because how much more environmentally friendly?
Ooh, good
One
point.
human baby has a much bigger carbon footprint, evidently, than 277 plastic dolls.
The Dressels have said they are not meaning to replace children. Clearly. But they find that these dolls are a creative outlet for them, and they actually have a website, allmyplasticchildren.com. If anyone would like to go,
Maybe we should give the
check it out.
plastic dolls consent cups.
They might need them at this. And they're also on Instagram, of course. Maybe they'll take pictures with their dolls and the consent cups. And they claim in the description of their Instagram page that plastic children are perfect children. Always photogenic, always cooperative. Live life absurdly.
Yeah, and there you go. A nice definition. Yeah, nice definition of the perfect child. Always cooperative, always quiet, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is not a Stepford family. I believe now, though, better to have 200 plastic dolls than these two people actually having a real one. That could be kind of scary.
And that's enough weird for this Wednesday. Don't forget to share this episode and subscribe to the free audio podcast on iTunes, SoundCloud, and everywhere else. Visit drdukeshow.com, subscribe for free, and then leave us the 5-star review so we can continue to grow the show.
And that's it. If you like the show, please consider supporting it by signing up for our Patriot Club. Just $25 per month keeps us going. $25. That is like one professorial lap dance a month. I mean, who can't afford that, right? Visit thedrdukeshow.com to get started. We'll be back tomorrow at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time for another episode of The Dr. Duke Show. Until then, she's Katie. I'm Dr. Duke. And stay educated, my friends.